Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, I want to go over my final kayak trailer build. Yes, it's my 7th trailer in 8 years, and I'll explain why I've gone through so many trailers, but let's get into the video. So let's get into why I'm on my 7th kayak trailer in 8 years. I can't even keep track anymore. No, I'm not sick in the head. No, I'm not made of money. But my thought process is I like to utilize everything that's out there and actually have hands-on experience with it and see what I really like. I've been through multiple enclosed trailers, I've been through multiple utility trailers, I've been through multiple custom kayak trailers. I also had the Yakima Overhaul HD rack on my truck with the Yakima top order boxes to be able to put a second kayak on top of that. It looks cool as hell on your vehicle. It looks like a true fishing kayak. Not even doesn't have to be. This could be fishing. This looks like a true fishing truck when it's set up like that. It looks cool, and I really like the way it looked. But getting that second kayak up on top of that rack, especially the heavier kayaks that we use now, like my Hobie PA, it got to be too much for me and my wife to get that second kayak up there, and now I actually want to carry 3 kayaks. So instead of me waiting for a custom kayak trailer to be built or the expense of that, I decided to go back to a utility trailer. I know exactly what I want. I can build it myself instead of taking it from here and telling somebody else how to do it, and they say, oh, I have pre-made jigs for my trailers, I can't modify that, I can't do this. I decided to do it myself, and I'm going to show you real quick before we get into the trailer what my truck looks like now. You can see here I went back to the back rack, which I had laying around from my previous Chevy, and put 2 work lights on the truck itself to be able to illuminate the trailer while I'm working in the bed of my truck, and I put a cover on the truck. This way I can stick all my luggage and everything in the truck. Everything is watertight for the most part, and I can go on trips with my family. So this is the best setup for me, to have the cover back on the truck, have the back rack to be able to install lights and do any other modifications, maybe even add some roto packs to that, etc. So that's how my truck looks like now. You guys seen previous videos, you know I had the, like I said, the Yakima full setup in here. It was beautiful. I tell you, that's the best rack you could possibly have on the market, being aluminum, and as strong and as sturdy it was with my side rack, you know, the sidebars on there with all my other gear on there. But let's get into the trailer and we'll do a quick little walk around first. You can see I took those 2 Yakima top order boxes and put them back on there. I built my own rack, and let's go through it in great detail. And I'm also going to show you some clips and breakaway of how I installed this on the trailer and kind of how I built this rack. So to make these brackets, I got 1 5/8 strut, which I spray painted black. I got these L brackets for a strut, which is like basically your inside 90 flat. We got some 3/8 hardware, and you can see what it looks like before I mount it actually on the trailer. You can see how I made like almost like a U bracket out of it, and it's sliding over the top of the rail here. And what I did is I drilled and tapped. Here's your 3/8 tap and the appropriate drill bit size. I drilled and tapped through the top of the tube. I drilled and tapped into the side to mount the hardware, and I used Loctite and also lock washers and washers to do that. And in this bracket here, I just drilled through it, this little flat stock here on the trailer, and this piece just hangs down. So it's attached in 3 different ways, which is an overkill to mount the Yakima box. But I want to make sure that this bracket, because trailers bounce, to stay on the trailer. So that's why I'm using Loctite. I'm using lock washers and the appropriate hardware to mount this bracket, and this is what the box is going to sit on. Now I was going to use shallower strut, but the deeper strut gives me a little bit more room to play with the spring nut, which I'm going to show you how I'm going to mount the Yakima box with a 1/4 20 spring nut through this strut. And that's it. It's very simple. You just need to have you know, cordless drill, etc., to get this done, and away you go. And that's how the bracket's going to look. And I'll touch it up with some black spray paint the hardware, spray paint the edges where I did the cut on the strut. And we'll get these all touched up. We'll mount this second bracket, and then we'll get into mounting the box itself, the Yakima box, on the trailer. Before, when I had my Yakima boxes on my Yakima over HD rack, I got these adapter plates, and you can see this is the plate that actually usually goes through the Yakima top order box with that U-bolt that goes around your ladder racks, etc. So you still use the same back plate, but Yakima sells these like little T-nuts to go in the Yakima rack and you just put it through the middle, and they give you a thumb screw to tighten it down, and that bracket sandwiches it down to your ladder rack, etc., but gives you a clean look, and you don't have those U-bolts sticking underneath where people can see and like kind of cut off. So I'm doing the same concept, but I'm just using a 1/4-20 screw with a spring nut, and this is a spring nut. It usually has a spring on it, but I usually take it off when I use it on the strut, and this is made for unistrut, and it's got grooves in it. I don't know if you can see those grooves right there, and it bites into the unistrut, so it sandwiches it down, holds it in place, and locks it in place. So we're doing the same concept, but we're using a screw instead of these thumb screws, and give us a clean look. And once again, you know, I'm drilled and tapped into this actual trailer, so it'll be a lot for somebody to take this, but I mean, really, you know how it comes down to it. Anybody can get into anything with a cordless grinder. This is just keeping people honest, but you know, when I'm on the water, all my rods are with me anyway. But you can see how it sits on top of the strut, and then this U-bolt, or this T-nut, is going to stick down into this groove. See where it looks like a candy cane reversed? And that's where those little grooves stick into. So all I got to do is stick this through the slots here, stick the T-nut on. I could slide this and tighten it down, and we'll get that all done and show you the final look of this when it's on the trailer. That's what it looks like on the trailer on the one side, and we'll repeat the same process on the other side because we got 2 boxes left over from when we took it off our rack. But you can see when you get down in here, you can see that spring nut sandwiched in there, hopefully, with that 1/4-20 nut. Let's open it up, and that's what the inside looks like. And as you know, from previous videos, I told you I used Gorilla Tape to fill up the slot. You know, they give you the seal, but I also put the Gorilla Tape in this slot on the top water box to really keep it a little bit more. You get dust, you get a little bit of fine dust in here for sure. You can see it's a little dirty inside there, but I'll just take some more Gorilla Tape and cover this all up. But using that bracket, we got the screw going to the bracket, and that's it, guys, and it's on there. No different than when it's on the rack on your truck or wherever else. So it's not a hard process to mount this onto a utility trailer. And we got it centered on the rail using that 1 5/8 unistrut. And the reason why I use the thicker stuff, because it gives me a little bit of adjustability when I'm trying to get the spring nut in there, because when you use the shallow strut, you know, you have a little bit less room when you're using the 7/8 strut than you do the 1 5/8. And the higher the box is brought up anyway, it's easier for me to get in. So this is at a good level, right at my stomach level, to get in here and get to my gear and my rods. So we're gonna repeat the process on the other side. And the 2 Yakima boxes will be mounted on the utility trailer. And you can see I kept it about 6 inches back. And we're probably going to leave the back tailgate off the utility trailer because I like to also wet launch off this too, which I used to with my other trailer. This trailer. So starting from the front, sorry about my shadow, it's to how the sun's directed. I always change the wiring harness on the trailers. Your normal utility trailers just come with a 4-way flat wiring pin harness, now unless you have brakes, and then they'll give you most of the time a 7-way, but this is a single axle trailer. This is a Big Tex 35 SA 6.5 foot by 14 foot, and this is the same trailer I've had previously before I sold that. Pretty much everything I've had, I've used. I looked at it, I used it, and realized it's not the right setup for me, so I would just sell it and then use that money to buy other equipment. Anyway, I get distracted like a squirrel, so I changed the wiring harness to 7-way, and I like to do that because most of your trucks today, except Ford, now they change it, even though Ford has a 7-way in the back, you always have to put a jumper in to get the constant power. But I like to change it to the 7-way because I like to get constant power and the reverse light set up to my trailer. This way I can always add the reverse light, which I may add to this, but with the lights being on my truck, I may not have to do that anyway. And I also have pre-tied in here the constant power, all wired in back here, if you can see, you know, done with watertight connectors and everything. So now I have my constant power pigtail ready to go, and that's going to be to probably add lights on probably an individual little post on the trailer itself, maybe one on each side. I do have a 20-inch bar I could put on here, but it's super bright. I don't know if I want to go that big because I'll just attract a ton of bugs when I'm out there getting ready in the morning. So I may just add individual little bars on either side of the box here and do maybe a couple more lights like that. I may also add some reverse lights when I'm back checking in, because I do wet launch with this. Also, I will take it and slide my kayak off to put the boondocks wheel on it, depending on where the ramp is, how busy it is. If it's really busy, I will just walk my kayak down to the ramp or down next to the ramp and launch it with just the wheels. If it's not a busy ramp and there's not a lot of people, because I'm very impatient and I can't deal with some of the issues you'll have at the ramp, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna get into the whole what I think about people at the boat ramps. I have both options to do it this way. I can slide this off and wet launch it, which I've done in the past. That's why I removed the back gate of the trailer on the utility trailers, because I don't need the back gate. So what I'll do the wet launch is I'll just tie on, you know, my typical rope there, and I'll make sure it's inside my supports I built here for other kayaks, which we'll go into in a minute. And then I'll just, you know, push it down the front, but the rope will be on the inside here, and then I could just walk it off the side, wet launch it out, and that's fine. It's very, very simple, even with having this rack and brackets in the way. Or like I said, I'll just take it and I'll just drag the kayak off, and I will put my boondocks wheel on it. My whole thought process to this trailer, utility trailer, was very, very simple. I have a box up front here to store pretty much, let me rephrase that, it will hold all my gear once I open it up and show you guys. So inside this Husky toolbox that you usually put on the front of your truck, your cross box, has all my gear in it. It has my boondocks wheels, it has my Torpedo motor, my batteries, catchboard, PFD, all that stuff, my Naqua batteries. It holds everything I need, and I can still jam more in here. It's just not really super organized yet. It's just kind of thrown in there right to begin with. But I can also, you know, my extra seats and stuff I need for my kayaks, I will just keep underneath my cover in my truck. But this holds all my gear, because pretty much the way that's set up on the trailer now is how it stays. So it holds all my gear, and when I bring my wife or my son with me and I have the 3 kayak, I will just throw in the extra gear in the bed of my truck. So this holds plenty of gear. You can organize this. I can keep my first aid kit in here. Like I said, I just haven't put everything in here yet. My plan is to do with this constant power is to, and you can see where you have your slots here. I don't know if you could see where you usually have your slots here to put your J-bolts and attach to your truck. I just put some black Gorilla tape over that to keep the moisture and the dust out. But my plan is to bring that constant power up into this area here, probably towards the back here, and cut a switch in the side, which will operate my lights. So I'll have that constant power when it's plugged into the truck, have the switch on here, right here, or here in the back, and I could turn on my work lights basically. I thought about mounting my work lights on the bracket on the rack that I built itself. But one good thing about this bracket is, say if it's like the off season, and it's, you know, off season is really your winter time months, but it's still warm enough down here in the Carolinas that I will be still going out myself. So if I want this rack completely out of the way, all I got to do is take 2 bolts out of each foot. So 8 total bolts, and I can just take this rack off and slide it over to the side and leave it in my shop. So I don't have to have this rack on there at all times. That's why I thought about getting a rack built by a steel person, basically to my dimensions that you see here, and do the same concept, but it'll be welded. You know, with this, utilizing Unistrut, it gives me the ability to, well, I guess I could have the steel guy just drill holes in there and do the same concept. I could take the bracket off, but this was an inexpensive way for me to do this myself, build it to the exact height that I wanted. And the height that you see here is super, super low. It basically just clears my Yakima top order boxes with a little bit of room there yet, but it keeps this rack low, so it's easy for me and my wife to load up the Hobie on top of this. I'm not putting it on top of my truck anymore, and it's super easy to get it up here, being it's only low, you know, being how low it is. So I could just take the handle of the Hobie, even with this kayak in here, step it up, put it on top there, and my wife could slide it up, or I could take it with the boondocks wheel, put the nose up here. Usually the boondocks wheels holds everything in place anyway, and I go behind there and slide it up myself and slide it over onto the bracket. Not a big deal. My spacing on this, which I'm going to break away to clip here momentarily, how I decided to mount these feet and the distance in between them. This distance in between them is about 7.5 feet. And it's perfectly lined up with my Hobie or even my New Canoe Unlimited, to where it'd be sitting on top of that rack, and it'll be on a flatter part of the kayak, so it'll be fine. You won't get much rocking to it, and I could just literally wrap a strap, you know, a cinch strap around each side of the post like I do with the ladder rack, and tie it down. This rack itself is 88 inches wide. 88 inches wide is perfect distance for having a Hobie and a New Canoe Unlimited on top of this rack. Your Unlimited is the widest kayak I'll probably ever own, which is 41 inches. So I have plenty of room to have two New Canoe, either the U10 and the unlimited on top here, which would be 82 inches, have a little space in between, have a little bit of play to put the straps and not be so tight. And 88 inches kept it with inside the trailer itself. You can see it sticks even before the box. It doesn't stick out past the trailer. I ended up putting a little L bracket at the end just as like an end stop and cover the part of the strut where you would cut it. Even if you file, it may still have some sharp edges, so it takes that sharpness away instead of putting a cap itself inside there that they do make. So now that you saw how I mounted the top water boxes on this trailer, it's a very sturdy setup, even though it's only held with just the normal quarter 20 hardware here, but it ain't gonna go anywhere. This thing is basically shakes the whole trailer. You can see everything shake. So it's on there very good, and I did that twice. But overall, as I walk around the trailer, all I did to this utility trailer is change the wiring harness, getting prepped for some constant power and have the availability to do my reverse lights. Added the 2 top water Yakima boxes that I already had to the trailer, built a rack, and added that front toolbox to house all my gear and keep it locked up. And of course I have a spare tire, which I have cable locked to the trailer itself. So I want to go into a little bit of how I mounted this rack itself and my thought process behind this whole thing. So the items you're going to need to build the rack: 1 5/8 unistrut. I got a strut foot, strut feet, whatever you want to say. That's what our base is going to be. It gives you the option to mount the strut with all the holes in different directions. We got a T fitting, if you want to call it that. That's how we're going to splice in the unistrut going sideways horizontally. We got an inside 90-degree. We have a 1/2 inch spring nut, unistrut spring nut. We have a lock washer. We have 1/2 inch nut, 1.5 inches, so 1/2 inch by 1.5 inches long, and we have a 1/2 inch by 3.5 inches long. And you also need a 1/2 inch washer, which I'll show you here. And here's the 1/2 inch washer. So I already pre-drilled my decking out, and you're also going to need black spray paint if you want to look black. So I also have some of these pre-made. Now this stand is just going to clear my kayak seat that sits on my new canoe that sits on the base of this. And it also, when I open up my Yakima boxes, that the rack is also going to clear when the lid is open. But I did pre-drill all these base plates on the trailer itself. And if you can see there, you can see that little black piece in between that crack there in the wood, or the seam, or whatever you want to say. That is the metal substructure of the trailer. So I got 2 holes through the cross members of the trailer. So this thing will be attached to the trailer itself, and then the other 2 holes are just going through the 2x material on the deck or on the floor of the trailer. These pieces I made here, after I got everything spray painted and dried a bit, enough to work with, is 3 feet tall. So I'm only keeping this really low because I want to be able to easily get other kayaks from the ground, either whether I'm using my boondocks kind of loaded up on the rack and I can push it from behind and slide it down, or my wife can help me. And I'm keeping these about 7 feet apart. Here's the other set of holes I drilled. About 7 feet apart. 7 feet works pretty good for my Hobie PA and also the U10 from New Canoe. I thought about putting another rack maybe in the middle as a cross support, but we're gonna try it with this at 7 feet. If I have to, I'll add another set, maybe in between about 3.5 feet. But I think right now we're gonna start out with just the 7 foot span in between the racks. This way it gives me a little bit easier accessibility, because then I can climb on the trailer from around here with the rack on it. If the rack stops right here, I could step in between here and get up in here when I either wet launch this, or if I just want to get up on top of here and play with the kayak before I put it in the water, so I don't have a cross member right here in the middle. And one good thing about this setup with the upper rack is that I got 2 bolts, not the ones on the base itself, but right here on the side. I got 2 bolts. So really, if I'm not going to be taking many people with me for a while, or my wife ain't going to come with me, I could just take out those 8 bolts and just take this whole rack off and slide it to the side and leave it, out of the way. And it gives me full accessibility to the kayak. So obviously the 3.5 inch bolts, I got 2.5 to start, but that was actually too small. I'm not be able to catch enough to get the lock washer and the washer on the bottom of this. 3 inch long ones would probably work to go through the 2x material, but end up going with 3.5. They stick down below and it's not a big deal. But I'm just gonna go through the process here a little bit. Since I got these holes drilled already, mount all these brackets, then I'll just show you how the upper brackets are gonna be mounted on here. And then that T fitting is going to go here, and it's going to grab in and just do a front to back support to keep this all tied together so there's no movement with just, even though these are screwed into the or bolted through the cross member of the trailer, I don't want this rack to be, have any movement side to side. So I'm going to tie the front and the back together. This is what it looks like underneath. I have a 1/2 inch nut, 1/2 inch lock washer, and a 1/2 inch washer. And you can see how I grabbed the cross channel with 2 of the bolts of that base plate. So all you gotta do is, once you snug those up by hand, you don't have to stay underneath because that lock washer is gonna start biting and it kind of holds it in place. Then you can come up top. Sorry, I got my fingers in the way there. You can come up top and use a drill, an impact, or a ratchet and drive these suckers home. And it bites down and tighten it up. And we are tight. And you can see there's the 2 posts mounted. Now we're going to mount the other 2. So I made the cross member 88 inches. 2 new canoes are 41 inches each, so that's 82 inches. And it'll give me plenty of room to add some like L brackets at the end and tie down points attached to the unistrut, with like eye loops. So it gives me plenty of room to have adjustability, move things around, but at the same time doesn't stick out past the trailer and gives me my widest platform across. I could have went to 90. I could actually probably went to 94 and still would have been within the trailer itself, but I think 88 is a good measurement. And this is where we take these L brackets, which I spray painted black, making a mess, spray painted black, and this is what's going to attach it from the post to this. And this is where you have to use your spring nuts, your 1/2 inch spring nuts, these suckers right here, to mount up inside the channel and gives you a place for your bolt to go into. Now, you can do that, or you can go on the outside edge and just use regular 1.5 inch nuts, bolts, washers, etc. to attach to this one, but you're still going to have to use a spring nut to go up inside the J channel because you want the flat side. I'll show you here. I don't want to move it, just have it set still. But you want to use the flat side, not the open side, which I'll get underneath here, of the strut itself, so the kayak can ride across this. I may even add like a 2x4 or 2x6 on top of this to give it just like wood's a little bit softer than metal, but it's like, no, this is no different than if you mounted it, taking your kayak on a ladder rack itself. But I may put some 2x4 and put screws and washers through this attached to the wood, maybe even a 2x6, just to give it a little bit of a wider platform, maybe a little bit of a softer area to have the kayak sit on. Maybe, I'm not sure yet. So just a thought, but that's not how we're going to set it up right now. It's just down the road. If I have any issues with this, I may put a piece of wood on it, but I think we'll be all right. Because I mean, the longest trip I'm going to do with kayaks on top of this, it's probably like 14 to 16 hours, and then they'll be taken off anyway. And I don't store my kayaks on this. The one stays on the trailer of my new canoe, and the other one stay on a wood platform at home. So they're not stored on these. And I wouldn't store kayaks on this for a long period of time. This is just for transportation for a trip and going out on the water, etc. So we're going to mount the L brackets here. I got to use spring nuts. I'll probably just attach it to the one side here. I probably won't do 2 L brackets. It's not needed. I mean, I'm not supporting thousands of pounds now. When I build transformer racks, etc. at work, I will take the extra step and do L brackets on both sides. But I think for this situation, just 1 will be fine. I'm not going to overkill it and put 2 on there. So we have to grab one side. We'll grab one side with the regular bolts, washers, lock washers, and nuts, and then we'll use the spring nuts up inside here. So the reason for spring nuts with the actual spring on it is if you have unistrut on the wall or whatever and it's in place, you can compress these springs, get this up inside there, and the spring will hold it from sliding around, and you can position exactly where you want it to, install your bolt through it. But what I normally do, since I've been doing electrical work, is I take the spring parts off, and what I'll do is I'll just come in here, get them sitting sideways. For the most part, they'll stay, and I'll just slide it down, if I actually slide it the right way. slide it down into place. And then I'll just hand tighten it to bring it up. And the spring nuts on the back side of it. Show you here. What do I do with the spring nuts, guys? Oh, here. If you look here, hopefully the camera is focusing in, there's these little grooves in that, and that bites down into the unistrut and really holds it in place. So I'm not going to use lock washers on this one, just the regular spring nuts there. Then I'll take my 1.5-inch bolts with a washer, and then I'll take a lock washer and a nut on the other ones on the inside. And then I'll tighten these down, get everything tightened all the way around on both sides, and then we'll repeat the process on the front two posts. And then we're going to stick cross members front to back horizontally to just tighten everything together and make it one stiff platform. And like I was saying before, I could take the 2 nuts that's holding each post, take those 2 nuts on the 4 corners, so a total of 8 nuts, and take this whole support bracket off the kayak trailer for the utility trailer when I'm not going to be hauling kayaks for a long period of time, and just keep the platform out of my way a little bit. Obviously, being 7 feet long, as big as it is, you may need 2 people to help you take it off when you do it, but we're just going to tighten everything up here, guys, get everything positioned the way we want it, and get this set, repeat the process up front. See what it looks like inside there with the hardware, and then down the side here, how the spring nuts are sitting in the channel. If I can get this to focus, maybe. But the spring nuts are sitting right on this like little candy cane part, and those grooves bite into that and hold it in place. And then I'm actually going to take 2 more of those L brackets to kind of cap this. If you want, you don't have to do this. They actually make like plastic strut caps to cover this end so there's no sharpness. But I'll probably do this on the end and just kind of give it like almost like a ladder rack end support. I don't think I'll use it as a tie down, but just kind of gives it a capped look and just cleans it up a bit. And you know, I could put something through this hole later on, maybe, you know, or just put my carabiner clip around there that I use for straps, whatever. I think I'm gonna put that at the end as well. All right, now that I showed you a little bit of how I did this whole rack, everything is just bolted together. It's very simple with 1/2-inch hardware. You got your strut feet, you got your 1 5/8 strut, and then for my cross pieces here where I use the T-splice piece that you can get for your strut, I just use the shallower strut because all this is tying the front and back bar together. Now this wasn't really moving front to back the way it's mounted through the actual frame of the trailer anyway, but just adding this cross piece just gives you a little bit more rigidity and just keeps it pretty much all together as one unit tied to the trailer. I mean, this whole thing just bounces. I mean, it's solid. It ain't gonna go anywhere, and it's just very easy for me to unbolt and take off on one shot. So you can see this trailer setup itself is nothing elaborate. It's just a utility trailer with your Yakima overall HD racks. There's multiple different storage boxes out there for fishing rods that you can use. If you actually saw my old utility trailer setup, I had big steel boxes. It was too much. I didn't need all that storage, but I used an actual conduit carrier to put my rods in. But obviously the Yakima top order box is your better solution for that because it keeps them elevated, it bungees them down, put rod wraps on them, and it keeps your rods and reels very secure and also protected during your traveling, because you know trailers do bounce around a lot more than vehicle you know, being on top of my truck does. Everything is together and it keeps it really protected. That's why I like these Yakima Yakima not the Overhaul HD, the Yakima top order boxes for my rods. So now I have the availability to carry rods here for myself, and I obviously carry more rods over here for my wife, my son, or store additional gear. When I had this on my truck itself, I actually took out these brackets here to hold the rods, and I just use it as like basically like a big coffin box to store gear, and I can actually keep my torpedo motor in there and all that stuff too. You can see that in other videos as well. But it's just a very simple setup. Storage boxes for my rods, storage box for my gear, and I built a homemade racket, that's what you want to call it, out of Unistrut. It keeps the cost down significantly. So custom kayak trailers are worth it, but still your average lifespan of any trailer is 10 to 15 years. It depends how well you take care of it. You can get it to last longer. Obviously I can get this trailer to last longer. I mean, it's got a wood top to it, and I actually like the wood top better than just steel bunks holding my kayak, because when I store my kayaks at home, it's just on a, you know, a shelf I built out of plywood with some 2x4s, so it's always laying flat, and it's not like underneath bunks. Now they make those little basket things you could store your kayaks on. It may be a little bit better, but I have no problem storing my kayaks flat, and that's how I've been storing them for 8 years, and I haven't had one problem yet. So to me, to be honest with you, to keep my Unlimited on here or my Hobie PA14 or whatever, I'd rather be sitting flat than sitting on steel bunk. Even though I keep my stuff inside, you still get heat, you know, when it's hot out in your shops like this, etc. Now, if you keep your kayaks outside sitting on steel bunks in that sun, you're going to actually probably eventually deform your kayak. Back to where I was. So kayak trailers are worth it. They just cost a lot of money, and a lot of times you are stuck to the way that the manufacturer makes them, designs them, has their jigs made up. This is something that you have a blank slate. Now, I would recommend at least a 14-foot long trailer, whether you do single or dual axle, that's up to you. Dual axle will be an overkill, but you know, you can even get a 16-footer if you really want to keep everything inside with having the front box. I thought about a 16-footer, but it's like that's an overkill. So 14-foot long kayak utility trailer, sorry, gives you that room to have that storage box like I have up front here, going straight across it, and keep most of your kayak inside the trailer. Like I said, the Hobie PA14 is on here. It's going to be on the top rack anyway, so it's going to be sticking in. My new canoe itself, the way I have the trailer set up, is just sticking off like that much. Whether it's inside the trailer or out, it's if somebody slams into the back of me, I'm going to probably have some kind of damage anyway. So just like a kayak trailer, your kayak, you know, your kayaks stick off the back of those anyway, so you're pretty much stuck to, if somebody slams into the back of you, you're going to have damage. I do carry insurance on all this stuff for that reason, to at least replace it so it's not coming out of my pocket. Yes, I'm paying for it through the years. I probably could buy a new one for what I pay for the insurance, but to cover everything I have here, including the trailer, the kayaks and everything, it's only costing me like $100, $105 a year. That covers the trailer, that covers the kayaks, it covers my gear. So at least I feel it's going to be, what, 18 plus years before it actually just be able to buy the base kayak itself to have the insurance. So to me, it's worth it to have the insurance. Anywho, doing Unistrut is a very simple way to build any racks the way you want it. And I like Unistrut because now I have all these holes here that I can attach other equipment to or whatever. I like just having a blank slate with a utility trailer and doing what I want, exactly the way I want it, and I can spend as much as I want. So overall, I like utility trailers for, you know, to haul my kayaks. I've been through this numerous times. I've tried the custom ones, I've tried enclosed ones. I think the utility trailer is the best option because you can wet launch with it, or you can just store your kayak in there and pull it off. And one other good thing about a utility trailer is, as you can see, I have room up front in front of the kayak here, which I'll show you. You can see I got additional room here on both sides. I have room down the side where I can put more things in. You know, now I can store coolers on here, camping equipment, folding chairs, etc., and just strap it down. And to show you real quick how I'm strapping down my kayak is I just got these D-rings that you can buy from the big box store, and just using cinch straps. And here on my handle on the side, I'm just using the handle, and same thing, just one D-ring cinch strap around it, and it just holds it perfectly in place. I have basically four straps on this kayak, which is an overkill. But when I go on long distance trips, I like to use every strap possible just for that extra mind, that you have that extra security on there, that this thing ain't go flying off the trailer. But really, to be honest with you, on the utility trailer, if you just had the one strap in the front, yeah, the kayak would bounce around, but it ain't gonna come off. But on shorter trips, a lot of times I don't use the back strap. I'll just use the two side handle ones, and that's it. But I just wanted to show you guys how simple you can set this up. It gives you the availability to store other items on there. And if I want, I could take that kayak off, and if I wanted to go pick up something longer, it's like having a big truck bed as well. So it's a multi-use trailer, just not for your kayak itself. So you can do a lot of things with it, you know, pick up a mattress, whatever you want to do. The utility trailer to me is the best option because it's multi-purpose. Like I said, you can wet launch with it, you can dry launch with it. You have the availability to throw toolboxes on here to store your equipment that you lock up. It's just a simple design, and you can build the rack however you want to build it or not do a rack at all. But my main reasoning for going back to the utility trailer is to build a rack at the height that I wanted, set the trailer up the way I wanted it, and be able to take 3 kayaks with me, so I can keep 1 there and 2 up top. And if I really wanted to get more kayaks, I could flip them, you know, upside down and strap more if I really wanted to. Pricing wise, if you wanted a 3 kayak carrier trailer from a manufacturer, and if you wanted to add the Yakima boxes on it and storage boxes, you're probably looking in the $6,000 range. I picked up the Big Tex trailer directly from Big Tex World. They're around the southern region. Obviously these trailers are built in Texas, but if you buy from Big Tex World directly and you pay cash, I only paid $2,300 for this 14-foot, 6.5 by 14-foot utility trailer. You could keep it as simple and as cheap as that. You don't have to have rod boxes. You don't have to have a storage box. You could really have a cover on your truck and you just throw everything inside your truck, or have a rod carrier on your truck itself. So you can get a trailer to haul your kayak for $2,300, or cheaper if you want to do like bunks and have those really small 5x8s and do all that kind of things. But like I said, I like to have my kayak sitting flat on it, and I just think the prices of utility trailers to go from like a 5x8 to a 6.5 by 14 a lot of times is either like $1,000 or less depending on the manufacturers. But Big Tex, for the price, is a great made trailer. You know, you got your tubing up top, square tubing. You can go, there's a cheaper option from them as well that saves you about, I think, $400 if you wanted to. So I think it's called like a 30 SA or a 30 whatever from them. But besides that, what I'm getting at is a utility trailer is a lot cheaper option than buying a custom kayak trailer. Custom kayak trailers are nice. They have a cool factor to them. They work very well. Nothing against them, but I think a utility trailer is your best economical option, and that's why I went that route. I don't want to wait that year to have one built. I don't want to wait 6 months. And money wise, for what you get out of a trailer, you're more or less paying for half material and half labor. These are mass produced. Not saying they're perfect trailers, every one of them, but they're mass produced, so the cost is down for the labor. You know, your custom kayak builders are USA made, usually individual workers at these companies, and they got to cover their overhead. They got to make money. So, you know, the cost of a custom kayak trailer is a lot more money. They are nice, but utility trailer is the way I want to go. And this is my final one. I'm done changing. I'm done going back and forth between utilities, custom kayak trailers, and enclosed trailers. This works best for me, and I hope it works good for you, and you guys got an idea of how I put this together. But back to the cost. I know I get off subject. So the trailer itself was $2,300. I already had the top order boxes that I purchased in the past, but if you had to buy these brand new, the best time to buy these is November from Yakima, when they usually have 20% off their website, or you may have a connection where you can get them cheaper. These range, I think, $629 brand new. I bought these in November at the 20% off, got them for $500. Now I know people can get these for even $375 each if you have the right connections, etc. So let's just say what I paid for this. So I got $2,300 for the trailer. Let's say $500 per box. I got 2 boxes. You don't need 2 boxes, you get away one, but I got 2 boxes. So let's say it's another $1,000. So that's $3,300. The front toolbox, if you had to go buy one brand new, depending on what brand they are, they range anywhere from $300 to $400. That one was $400. So I'm at $3,700. And this unistrut, it cost me a couple $100. So for less than $4,000, now you say, well, $4,000 is close to a custom utility trailer or custom kayak trailer build. It is, but it's still cheaper than most cheaper options unless you're doing a single carrier kayak trailer base model. You're not going to get it for less than $4,000. You can, but it's just base. It's basically going to be a trailer, some wheels, and some bunks. Yeah, trailer, wheels, and some bunks. You're not going to have all this extra storage boxes with you. You're not going to have another rack. You're going to carry 1 kayak trailer. But like I said, to carry 3 kayaks, have Yakima boxes, storage boxes to put your gear, you're looking at $6,000. This overall cost $3,900 if I had to buy everything brand new, which I kind of did. I just had these already, so they've already been pre-bought. And the strut was a couple $100 in the hardware. You may be in a trade where you have the unit strut laying around that's left over on the job site that you could take and it won't cost you nothing. You could build this out of wood if you wanted to keep the cost even down. There's a lot of different things you can do with a utility trailer because it is a blank canvas. Hope this video gave you guys some ideas. I kind of gave you a glimpse of how I mounted this, how I kind of put the rack together, my spacing. I can take it off very easily. If I need to, I could cut it in another post. If I think I need one in the middle for better support, I may add wood to it. I may add reverse lights in the back to this, and I may add work lights. I've used those work lights already numerous times on my truck, and I have no problem with it lighting up the area, but if I need a little bit extra light, I may, you know, add some lights to the trailer and cut a switch in the back there. I probably will do that, but I'm in no rush. I don't need to do it right now because that is enough light, but if I want a little extra light, I may just do that down the line since I already got the wiring done and I was prepped for it anyway. So I probably will, just maybe when it gets closer to winter time where it gets darker, you know, it stays darker even longer and I want a little bit more light in the morning and I don't have to worry about it being hot and humid and the bugs flying everywhere, then I won't mind having the lights on the trailer right next to me because I'm not going to be attracting bugs because none of them will be alive. But right now, because it's hot, humid, I keep the lights on my truck on and all the bugs go to that and it keeps me clear back here and I still have enough light to set this up. You can get different manufacturers, different sizes and make it work for yourself, but I think the 14-foot trailer for the extra, like when you get into like a 10-footer to a 12-footer, it's $100 more. You get it from a 12 to a 14-footer, it's $100 more. And if you go directly, because I went directly to the manufacturers, I got it cheaper. So see if there's a place by you that you can go directly to the manufacturer, because if I bought this up here locally, I went to Georgia to buy this trailer. If I went locally here to South Carolina, this trailer would cost me another $700 just because I'm paying for it to be shipped from wherever to South Carolina. So you're paying that and then you got to pay tax, you know, your tax on this. So here in South Carolina, you don't have to register your trailer. So I don't have to pay tax on this whatsoever. That price of $2,300 was out the door, being I bought it in Georgia. Being I'm not a Georgia resident, I didn't have to pay the tax. So $2,300 cash out the door. We're in a big tax world. Even if you have to drive 8 hours, you're going to be saving hundreds of dollars on shipping costs and taxes a lot of times to begin with. So it's worth it. You spend, even if you have to spend $200 in gas, you're still saving a lot of money going and picking these up yourself instead of paying somebody to bring them to these shops that they sell them at. Cost is not that much to tow this around. Now when I was doing the enclosed trailer, when I went to Alabama, it cost me almost $600 round trip. It was just insane. That's the reason why I got rid of the enclosed trailer, as much as I do love those. So we'll do one more walk around here. If you guys have any questions, just drop it in the comments. You guys can just ask me anything. I'll let you know. That front box here was just screwed down with some washers to the wood itself. So plenty of screws in here to hold this in place. You got your locks built in. You could add a hasp block to this if you want to really secure your stuff. You can see how I mounted this. I got my rack up top to carry 2 more kayaks up top, and I could even throw 3 on there and kind of stack them if it's a short trip, whatever I got to do. But this is just a very simple design. This rack is not in my way when I want to set up my kayak in the morning, because either I'm pulling it off or I can just step up top here real quick. So it's very simple for me to jump up on the trailer, reach my gear pod, set up anything I need to here. Anything on the sides I need to put on there, I could just reach from the side itself. I don't have to step up top here, but it's very simple just to jump up. I can reach over my box here, reach everything I need to here in my black pack, or I can pull the kayak back a little bit to get to it, or I can get it from the back. That's another reason why I took the gate off, because it gives me quick access to, you know, reaching in, opening my black pack, adding anything I want in there, and just have pretty much a free reign around my kayak with actually still having the bars here and not being in my way. That's the reason why I really didn't want to add the one in the middle. And like I said, I don't think I need it. I think I'll be fine without it. So the trailer doesn't look brand new because it was kind of sitting outside. It was a leftover. So, you know, the wood doesn't look as great, but this is a brand new trailer. Changed the wiring harness on it. Got my boxes that I need on here. Sorry about the guy blowing the horn in the back. I don't know what his problem is. And you know, I already had these Yakima boxes, so you can keep your costs down if you don't have to, you know, have boxes. Don't have to have a rack. Like I said, you can get a smaller, like 12-foot utility trailer if you want, but for an extra $100, it's worth it for me to get the bigger trailer and have the room to add my boxes without my kayak hanging off the back. That's it, guys. I'm just getting too old to be throwing this stuff in the back of my truck now. It's a smaller kayak, and just getting to be too hard for me and my wife to be able to throw the Hobie on top of my truck like I used to. And I wanted a trailer. I didn't want to wait, and I also didn't want to pay $6,000 for basically what I built here is into a custom kayak trailer that looks cool, works great. They are worth the money if you have the money to spend, but if if you're on a budget, more like I am. Just because I have a YouTube channel doesn't mean I have a ton of money, guys. I just do all this stuff on the fly, and I finally made the decision that the utility trailer is the best way for me to go, and this will be my last one until I break it or it gets stolen and we have to do it all over again. But this will be hopefully the last trailer I have to talk to you guys about, have to play with, and I get 10, 15 plus years out of it. I mean, I keep it inside, so it should last for a long time, and I take very, very well care of everything anyway. I will leave it there. So as always, guys, be safe on the water, and I'll catch you on the water. And like I said, if you have any questions, drop a comment. And I hope this video gives you guys out there some ideas of how to set up a utility trailer, be more cost effective than the custom kayak trailer, and be able to put something on a trailer instead of trying to load it on a rack in your truck or in the bed of your truck, and it just transports a lot more easier the way these kayaks are getting super, super heavy. So I hope you guys like this video. Thanks for stopping by.